All right, next example, a convenience sample. So what would this look like if he's just trying to do something that's as convenient for him as possible? So one example that I've heard students try to come up with is knocking on doors to try to talk to different apartments, which is true. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to do because some people may not be home and all sorts of things like that. So a better option for an example of convenience is basically to stand at the entrance or stand in the lobby and just talk to the people who come in. So whoever happens to come in until he gets a sample of 60 and just stand there and get all the people that as they come through. That would be a convenient sample. Okay, so just ask questions as people walk in or hand them a survey or however he is getting the information just to the first 60 people that he needs to talk to. So why would somebody choose to do that? What would be a strength of that? Um, Kind of like the voluntary sample, it's easy. He's probably going to spend some time doing this because he needs to talk to 60 people, 60 homeowners, so it'll take a little while, but it's easy. He's not having to do much. Just stand there and talk to people. So what would be a weakness of this? Why would you choose to not do this? What would be a problem that would arise from this? Okay, and a problem that could arise is, does it matter when he takes the survey? Does it matter when he stands in the lobby and asks people? You're going to get different responses at different times of the day. Okay, so for example, if he went at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon, is he going to get the same sample that he may get at Wednesday at 6 o'clock at night or on a Saturday morning? Um, what's happening here? Most likely Wednesday at 2 o'clock, all the people who work are not going to be there, at least work out of in another place other than at home. So you might get people who are retired or stay at home for some other reason, and those might be the people most likely who are passing through the lobby at 2 o'clock on a workday. Versus on the weekend or sometime in the evening, you may get different results because you're including different people in your survey. You're including people who work or who just aren't available at 2 o'clock or whatever time during the week. Okay, so the time of day is going to influence who he talks to and the information he gets. Okay, the last two, stratified random sample and simple random sample. So a simple random sample, how are you randomly going to select these apartments? Okay, so you have 30 floors, 20 apartments on each floor. So all together, there's 600 apartments in the whole building. It's a very large building. How do you just randomly select, we need 60 of them? How do you do that? Okay, there's a few different ways that you can do it. Most likely something like put all 600 apartment numbers in a hat and draw out 60. Okay, that's a pretty simple way, easy description that most people understand. Okay, so we'll put the 600 apartment numbers. draw or select 60 apartments. And then go get information just from those 60 apartments. Okay, why do we choose to do this? What's the strength of using a simple random sample? One of the main strengths is that it's random. And whenever we use randomization to select things, it reduces bias. And so we're guaranteed that he's not just selecting people he knows or various things like that. Are there any weaknesses to using a simple random sample? So, since we live in El Dorado Hills, we may not be as familiar with apartment complex types situations. So, just a little background. If you have a very large apartment building like this in a big city, most likely what happens at the top floors? What do you think? What happens to the size of the apartments or the different types of people who might be on the top floors? Usually, those tend to be larger and so more expensive, and so most likely people at the top floors, because they have better views and so on and so on, they tend to be a little bit wealthier. So, and when you just take a random sample, maybe the numbers you draw, there's nobody from the top floors, and so those people are not represented in the sample. Okay, likewise from maybe the bottom floors usually aren't as desirable, and so it's a chance that they could just not be in the survey just because they weren't selected. And so that's just one of the weaknesses is, and we'll kind of go back and forth between simple random sample and stratified random sample because of this. Okay, so because of this weakness, you may not include all types of people just because those top floors or the bottom floors weren't selected. So we could, certain floors could just not be selected. In the sample. Okay, so this is not an example of undercoverage. Remember, undercoverage, so we're going to have to keep track of a lot of vocabulary. Undercoverage is where some groups of the population are left out of the process of choosing the sample. That means they were never an option to include them. Here, they were in the hat, they just didn't get selected. Okay, so this is not an example of undercoverage. This is just saying that when you do a random sample, you're not putting requirements on which floors are being selected. You're just randomly picking out 60, and so because of that, you may just not include some of those people. All right, last is a stratified random sample. Okay, and so stratified random sample, you break up the sample into different strata that are similar in some way. Okay. So most likely, as we've talked about, the different floors may have different characteristics. You're probably going to want to break them up based on the 30 floors. Okay. So if you have to take 60 homeowners, you want to talk to 60 apartment complexes. No, sorry, just apartments. Sorry about that. Just want to talk to 60 apartments, and we're going to need to then select how many from each floor. Okay, we're going to have to select 2 from each floor, so that of the 30 floors, you select 2, you end up with 60 people that you're talking to. Okay. So in this situation, what it would look like, stratified random sample, select 2 apartments from every floor. Sorry, it's a little messy. Okay, so why would we choose to do that? What would be a strength of using a stratified random sample? Um, the reason like you would choose to do this over a simple random sample is basically you're guaranteed that every floor is represented in your sample, because that's one of the perks that was a weakness in the simple random sample, but would be a strength here. Okay, so each floor is represented in the sample. It's guaranteed to be included in there. The weakness, so we kind of took care of, this is a strength for this, which was a weakness in the simple random sample. Okay, so we make sure each floor is included in our sample. But a weakness of that is just that it is not a simple random sample. Okay, and the problem with that is not every single type of sample is possible. Not all groups are possible. And what that means is that we are for sure having 2 apartments from each floor, which in this case was a strength. But what happens with a simple random sample is that every group of 60 apartments is equally likely. Here with a stratified random sample, because you're guaranteed to have 2 apartments from each floor, so on the first floor, when you select those 2 random apartments, though the rest of the apartments are not going to be chosen. You're not going to have all different possible selections of 60 apartments because you're guaranteed to have 2 from every floor. You're not going to have 4 from one floor and 1 from another, and all the different types of possible scenarios that you can come up with. You're guaranteed to have 2 from each floor. So it's just not a simple random sample because, and the other weakness with that is not all groups of 60 apartments can be selected. And so again, you're not going to end up with some like 4 from one floor and 0 from another and 2 from another. You're guaranteed to have 2 from each floor, and so you're just not going to have all possible groups of 60 be possible in this situation. So that's the only weakness that happens with a stratified random sample.